Moving on to a further question, and this has been raised by Fakhrul Islam Sahib from United Kingdom. Jazakallah for your question, Fakhr Sahib. And he asks that in a previous program, and I think a couple of programs ago, Imam Sahib, we touched on this subject, and it was in relation to the prohibition in Islam from consuming the pork meat. And he's asked if the panel could, because at that time we only had a couple of minutes, perhaps we can elaborate on the subject in terms of what is the wisdom, the scientific and spiritual effects of the consumption of pork, and maybe shed some further light on this subject.
Well, the thing is, just to start this discussion, that everything actually belongs to God Almighty. So if Allah Almighty, the Creator, who is the provider of all these things, if He stops the Muslims to use something, so that is simply as good enough reason for all Muslims to submit to that one. And to find out those are the reasons, they are sometimes very clear, looking at the name of this animal in Hindi language, in Arabic language, both it indicates that they are bad. And look at the habit of this one. There are certain points in pig which make it really such an animal which nobody would like to even consume, because according to medical reports there are certain diseases which are created as a result of continuous use of this animal, this meat, and there are some worms and further germs as well created in the intestines for which there is no relief discovered at this time. So people say it could be very dangerous, and this is one thing. And also this animal is very, something very much different from other animals, because it is described to be homosexual in its practice. And that is something which is a very bad habit. And look at the society today. I mean, this is some of the things which always people say this should not be there in a pure society. But if people are making use of the flesh of such animals, then as a result of this, it is also established that some of these traits of those animals, they gradually come into the genes and to the habits of the people. So this is also one aspect of that, and that is related with the spiritual reason why Islam has, God Almighty in His infinite mercy and wisdom has taught us that people should abstain. Otherwise this spiritual loss will be there, and a bad habit will come into the people.
Jazakallah.
Sorry, what I was going to say is that Imam Sahib has said that the name of this animal gives us an indication about the filth of this animal. And the people in the West have actually taken that on board, because in normal terms we find that people use, if somebody's eating habits are very bad, they say he eats like a pig. Or if a room is very dirty and filthy, that's a pigsty in there. So they do take this on board, that anything to do with filth and dirtiness and shamelessness is actually used, and these are not obviously terms of endearment they use. So that is accepted by people, that the habits are very bad. And it is the promised Messiah ﷺ who has also pointed out that whatever you eat influences your moral and your spiritual and your physical aspects. So this is an important thing, and physiologists have accepted this, and conferences of physiologists have actually taken this on board, and we see this more and more as to the foods that we eat. They are very important as far as our upbringing and our morals are concerned. So taking that a step back, consumption of pork will impact on our moral and our spiritual ills. So that is why perhaps the reason for why we are forbidden to eat this animal.
Jazakallah, Dr. Saab. I hope that has kind of shed further light on the subject that we discussed in an earlier program. Jazakallah for your question, though.